for the opportunity, acknowledge who's all here, the elders, and my elder, Chief Began, is here. One thing before we start, I wanted to ask if we could have a moment of silence for the many youth that are young girls that are taking their own lives. And if we could do that for everybody, to stand for the communities that are losing these young people. Thank you for that. I'm sure we all felt it, no matter where we live. Very important discussion this morning. I want to thank the committee, those that are involved. It takes work. I know these events don't just happen. So to all of you that put your time and effort, I want to thank you for your work on this important issue. Our people, Touchwood Agency people here, thank you for your efforts as well. Listening to Bobby, he's brought some good comments. And this morning for me, I just want to add a couple areas that I feel are important in this area in terms of water, safe drinking water, and how it has impacts on our lives, our communities, our people. And those are some of the areas I wanted to raise and share a little story. I was in a country 2 months ago where you couldn't even put your toothbrush under the water to brush your teeth. So hopefully, I hope we never get to that point here. And it's going to take a lot of effort. And what I believe in terms of how do we bring solutions. And some of you may have heard this before from me, but I believe it's a cross-section. You know, we need technical, we need to bring that expertise, right? Those that are training, those that are trained. And from there, we need to also include administration. Because from administration, everything needs money. Every system. And then from the administration, we need our political, right? And I believe all of these fit in there. And from the political, most importantly, we need the spiritual. So all of those have to be combined to help solve what we're facing. And as we come together this way, the one thing that we've got to set aside is our jurisdictions. So Sask Water will say, you know, we have no jurisdiction there. But Indian Affairs says operators who operate these plants on reserve need to follow the provincial accreditation. So that's a cross-jurisdictional issue. And we're standing here, well, we have these rights and this is our system. So we're caught in the crossfire between jurisdictions. And as we start to realize how it's funded, this is the biggest challenge when it gets to the reserve, is that the department will say, well, we'll fund it 80%. So we're all in this 80% model. And we're supposed to make up the 20% difference through user fees. But our biggest challenge is on reserve is when we have housing, we have challenges collecting rents for CMHC homes. We have challenges collecting maintenance fees for band-owned homes. So to be very honest with everybody, we have a heck of a time getting that 20%. And everyone says it should be easy for the bands to make that 20% difference. It's not that easy. So we go ahead, build CMHC homes, put SA people in those homes, so you solve that rent issue for a little while. Because then 5 years later, your new home is not so new anymore. You put working people into CMHC homes, it's hard to collect the rent. So you got a better home, but no rent coming in. And over here, the bills keep adding up in water. All these user fees accumulate. Hence the situation we're all in right now. It's not making excuses, I'm just giving examples as to what we face, what we're facing. Then if there's a problem in that house, and all of a sudden no one is paying rent, we have a thing that says if you don't pay rent, how do you get services? Because it's not fair to the next person who pays the rent. You don't pay rent, you have a problem with your water, our technical people don't go out. Then it's all over Facebook, the chief don't want to even come and fix my house. Not everybody understands why you can't go do that, why you shouldn't. And does anybody, I'm sure some of you know when the problems happen, right? When the water systems in homes break down. It breaks down at 40 below during a holiday, when all the staff are on holidays enjoying Christmas, and it comes to the chief, my water system's broken. And every counselors are on holidays, everyone's on holidays, and that's when the water breaks. So then, you gotta get someone to come in and repair that. 40 below, holidays, and this contractor has to now leave his family festive season and come and fix the home. So his rates, you're paying winter rates, you're paying holiday rates, right? And then the bill comes in and they say, these Indians don't know how to manage their money, look what they're paying to fix their homes. Well, of course we're paying more, right? Then the audits on Facebook, look at how chief and council manage their money. But if we didn't do what you gotta do, you'd have a family in a house in 40 below with burst water pipes. So you're caught. Hence it's that challenge, right? So some of the elders that are listening, hopefully you won't buy into the chief and council don't want to help. Maybe I'll share a little bit so it's understood as to what we all have to deal with. It's not that chief and council don't want to help. There's systems in place, there's policies in place, and you got to live with that. So one of the things that I'm hoping that we can come out of these types of sessions, because I see there's a lot of white people in the room, and I'm thankful for that, because when your MPs and your MLAs come to you asking for your vote, and this issue comes up about First Nations, hopefully there could be an educated discussion, right? Because if you listen to the Taxpayers Association's perspective, that Indians waste money, we play with money, all of those, right? You guys can say, no, that's not really the way. Even these MPs, these MLAs, they need to be educated, right? Generally, society in Saskatchewan needs to be educated. And that's part of what I'm bringing forward here, to explain how are you supposed to go to impoverished people and demand a 20% user fee. Understanding if we have to, in the next 5 years, 10 years, to help solve the problem, can we get 100% funding for that time period? until we can get our own system in place. That's a potential solution. And you know, our systems that we deal with, I believe that they're not user-friendly. And anybody who's working in these types of systems where children have to bathe, your people have to use that water, I think it has to be one that, you know, you shouldn't need to be a PhD to understand your system. How do we do that? I don't know. There's a lot of smart people in the room. Maybe someone could come up with that type of solution. And from my point of view, this is the biggest challenge right now that we're facing in Indian government, is the liability. So the funding that comes to the First Nation, it's all save harmless the Queen. No liability attached. If people, elected leaders at the First Nation level, really understood that the liability rests with the chief and council, if someone poisoned and dies, the Health Canada's funding, Indian Affairs funding, that's all. They're not liable in any way. I hope nobody ever poisons from water, because that's where we would all find out where that liability rests. We've tried to have discussions. Take your liability back. It's your system. It's your funding. Don't leave it on chief and councils. That's how I feel personally. The person who should be liable is Justin Trudeau. If an Indian dies on reserve because of poor water, that's who should be liable. But of course, no, we're not, right? We're not. We're just going to keep underfunding you. You accept all the liability. So those are important issues that I wanted to raise, and share a little bit in terms of how I believe that we should all come to better understand water. And we've heard of how it used to be, all of that. And I think one of the good teachings is to sacrifice water. Not only just drink water, but don't drink water. And in our First Nation systems, we have those days. 4 days without food and water. On the 4th day, it's pretty darn tough. The next time I do that, it'll be my 13th time. So I've come to understand how important water is by not having any. And that's our First Nation system, our First Nation belief as to how valuable water is. Go without it for a few days to better learn. I encourage all of us to get back to that as well. Very important. And from this perspective, I hope that I added some value, some understanding. Though not an expert in water, I turn my tap on just like all of us, so that's about as much as I know from that perspective, and we hope it's safe. But together from these kind of meetings, hopefully there can be a report brought out where that report can be taken back to the communities. That's where it has to be. Not just collect dust and go about our next meeting, our next conference. I believe that whatever we develop here, bring it back to where it matters, and we can all continue to learn and hopefully have better water systems in the future. So with that, I want to thank everybody for your time and this fella for his introduction, and everybody that took time to be here. Thank you.